In realms across the multiverse, music weaves the strands of fate. On plains of myth and legend, bards arise, poet-singers, song-weavers, voices that stir the hearts of champions. They stand in forests where moonlight dances on elven strings. They bray on fields of war, their chants a shield for trembling allies. Across the mists of Shandalar, a wanderer plays a tune that bends wild magic to his will. In courts of Capenna, a diva sings secrets of the streets, her notes sparking whispers of power. In Eldraine's grand halls, performers spin tales of enchanted quests, each refrain kindling ancient hope. On Ixalan's golden shores, tribal drums pulse with primal rhythm, guiding blade and shield through the heat of battle. In Theros, amidst marble temples, sagas are not written, they are sung, voices of destiny echoing in eternal hallways. These are not warriors of sword and shield. They fight with melody, casting chords that awaken courage, weaving harmonies that soothe despair. Their music binds allies, heals wounds, and kindles legends. A bard's song can shape worlds. Imagine the wanderer, lyre in hand, whispering secrets of lost battles, summoning allies from the whispering woods. Envision the diva in the city's neon gleam, a song that fractures lies, reshaping the fate of shadows. Feel the pulse of tribal drums, echoing through jungles, stirring primal resolve, uniting creatures in a dance of survival. In temple ruins on far plains, a soft ballad swells, bridging mortal souls to the divine. Each bard carries a story, each note a legacy. Some chase treasures on forgotten roads, some craft epics with each breath, some command dragons with song alone. They are wanderers, dreamers, storytellers. They are the weavers of myth. Their music carves paths through time, through legend, drawing heroes forward. In commanders' halls, their songs echo, aiding those who quest, building legends of their own. For in every chord lies a world waiting to awaken.
In the heart of the mountain where fire meets stone, they endure. The dwarves, masters of metal, keepers of craft, warriors born of the forge. On Dominaria they fade into legend. On Kaldheim they rise again, hammering Sega into steel, defiance into every blade. Their forges burn beneath the city of 8 doors. Their stories ring louder than war drums. Each weapon a legacy, each scar a chapter. On Eldraine they carve kingdoms from gem and flame. On Kaladesh they shape creation itself, precise, patient, unyielding. Proud clans, fierce hearts, bound not by blood, but by the fire that tempers them. When the giants roar, when the minds quake, when gods forget their names, the dwarves remain, forging, fighting, enduring, until the last ember dies and the mountain falls silent. This is the age of dwarves, the age of craft, the age of legacy.
Before angels fell and dragons claimed the skies, there were sentinels of sun and storm, creatures born of wind, claw, and legend. They are the watchers between heaven and earth, neither holy beast nor holy myth. They are Griffins, from the spires of Benalia to the sanctuaries of Serra's faithful. Their wings have cast shadows of hope across the war-torn fields of Dominaria. On Theros, they scream across the vault of Nyx, their cries echoing the pride of forgotten gods. In Band's radiant courts, knights ride upon their backs as living emblems of honor. On Ravnica, the Boros Legion takes to the sky atop feathered titans of justice. Some guard relics swallowed by time, others protect ruins older than war itself. They do not bow to demons, nor bend to tyrants. Their wings speak of vigilance, their claws of judgment, their eyes of skies unchallenged. Kingdoms rise and fall, empires fade and planeswalkers vanish, yet griffins endure. They do not claim thrones, they guard them. And today, we turn our gaze to the tribes that ride the winds of legend. This is the legacy of the Griffins, and their story is far from over.
Where the great empires rise and fall, and heroes carve their names into eternity, another force lurks, quiet, forgotten, but never absent. They are not the champions who stand at the center of glory, nor the titans whose power shakes the heavens. They are the unseen hands, the expendable tools, the dark silhouettes, moving just behind the veil of power. They are minions across countless planes, wherever corruption takes root, wherever dominion is asserted by tyranny or nightmare. Minions follow. They do not carry crowns, they carry chains. They do not lead armies, they are the army, faceless and many, loyal not to ideals, but to their master's will. On Dominaria, in the age of the Cabal, minions were everywhere. Black-robed servants of shadow markets, whisperers of forbidden bargains, pit fighters in arenas fueled by cruelty and ambition. The Cabal was no empire in the traditional sense, but a cult of greed and dominance, spreading through fear, trade, and exploitation. Their minions were pawns, yes, but pawns with knives, spellbooks, and a hunger for power channeled from their masters. They wove nightmares into flesh, summoned horrors from beyond, and sacrificed freely to the greater vision of their overlords. Where the Cabal spread, minions became its breath, its reach, its living shadow. And beyond Dominaria, darker still, lies Phyrexia, a world of oil, flesh, and machine. Here, the very concept of individuality is stripped away, and service is not choice but destiny. In the eyes of Phyrexia, every being is either converted, destroyed, or used, and so their minions take forms beyond imagination. Living weapons, sleeper agents hidden among the innocent, bodies reshaped by black steel and viscous ichor. These are not henchmen with fear in their eyes. They are extensions of the great will, an army of parts serving a singular purpose: completion. If the Cabal's minions were bound by ambition and corruption, the Phyrexian minions are bound by inevitability, their servitude eternal, their role unending. And yet, across the centuries of magic's lore, minions appear again and again as the quiet constant of villainy. They are the expendable muscle of necromancers, the enforcers of leashes, the cultists of demon lords, the dark apprentices of powers greater than themselves. They are the faceless tide that swells behind every great antagonist, the hands that carry out every unspeakable deed, while the masters remain distant and untouchable. Minions represent the ideology of service to darkness, an acknowledgement that evil is rarely a solitary figure, but a network, a cult, a hierarchy of shadows. Without minions, villains are nothing but lone voices. With them, they become legions. They do not ask questions. They do not seek redemption, they serve. And in their service, they remind us of the most terrifying truth of all, that evil does not need heroes to succeed, only minions enough to obey.
In the darkest corners of the multiverse, as planes collide and the echoes of creation fade, something ancient stirs. A whisper beneath the stone, a shimmer in the tainted light. From the forgotten cradle of a world long lost, they emerged, not bound by one shape, not limited by one mind. They were many, and yet one. They are the brood that remembers everything and forgets nothing. Each sinew, each tail, each talon pulses with collective purpose. Born on wrath as beasts of burden, the slivers were twisted into instruments of evolution by the will of those who sought to control them. But the hive cannot be contained. Beneath the surface, a queen was awakening, vast, patient, eternal, weaving her brood into a force that would defy gods and planes alike. When wrath merged with dominaria, the slivers spread like wildfire through the veins of the world, adapting to every challenge, consuming every limit. On Chandalar, they evolved again, reshaping themselves to match every threat, every opportunity, every new world. They are adaptation made flesh, the living proof that evolution is not a process, it's a weapon. When one sliver changes, all slivers change. The hive learns, the hive grows. And what begins as a whisper becomes a storm of claws, fangs, and shared power. They are not good nor evil, only inevitable. A single thought connects them all, a mind of a million voices singing the same word, survive. From the caverns where the Sliver Queen waits, her brood reaches through cracks in the plains, through shadow and time, to claim what life dares to resist. The first sliver heralds the next stage of existence, and those who face them soon understand. Resistance is only transformation delayed. The hive knows your defenses, your strength, your fear, and then quietly it becomes you. A tremor beneath your feet, a shimmer in the light, a heartbeat not your own. The slivers have returned. Evolution has a voice, and it whispers through every world they touch. The hive rises again, and all creation will bend or break. Because this is not a war of armies. This is the awakening of evolution itself. Stand firm, adapt, or be devoured. For when the slivers awaken, everything changes.
In the hidden corners of the multiverse, a thunder of hooves shakes the mountains, and a roar older than language bellows through the stone. They are not born of silence. They are forged in blood, in fury, in labyrinths carved by gods and warlords. On Theros, they swear blood oaths to Mogis, god of slaughter and unending wrath. Their horns are marked with runes of conquest, their blades baptized in the screams of cities that fall before them. Across the sands of Amonkhet, they marched beneath twin suns, not as beasts, but as warriors honed by trial and death, their rage tempered by divine purpose. In the old world of Dominaria, their clans rose from molten peaks, their war cries echoing across Shiv's volcanic skies. Honor was not a word to them. It was a weapon. And on Tarkir, before dragons bent time itself, they rode with the Mardu horde, unstoppable as wildfire, their axes singing in the storm of battle. Some call them monsters, others call them legends. But Minotaurs do not care for names. They remember only the clash of steel, the thunder of pursuit, the scent of fear on the wind. They are the children of wrath, the scream in the labyrinth, the warriors who do not kneel. And when their tribes unite, worlds tremble, gods listen, and history is written in red. This is not a tale of beasts. This is the rise of the Minotaurs.
In the far reaches of the multiverse, where metal and magic intertwine, a race of silent sentinels stirs beneath alien suns. Born of arcane design carved from stone, steel, or shimmering glyphs, the Golems stand as proof that not all life blooms of flesh and blood. On the plain of Merodin, the silver titan Khan forged a world of artifice and populated it with golems in his image, perfect guardians of a flawless realm. But when ambition met contagion, and the taint of the Phyrexian oil seeped into the core, the Golems' order was shattered, and their purpose turned to vengeance. Memnarch, once a steward, cast aside his maker's vision to claim the spark of life, commanding the Golems and abducting souls from distant planes. The world trembled under the march of machines designed to serve, now bent to conquer the very planes they should have protected. Across the multiverse, in temples and ruins, on worlds molded by mana and metal, the Golem endures. A silent guardian in one age, a war engine in the next. They embody the perfection of logic, the irrepressible will of the artificer, and the inevitable rebellion of creation against its creator. In Tarkir's snowbound monasteries, ancient golems awaken to guard secrets older than dragons. In Theros' stone citadels, statues infused with Nyx's power stood vigilant at the temple's gate. And on every plane touched by artifact and alloy, their shapes reflect a singular truth: that there exists a power beyond flesh, a force that rises when the gears align, a masterpiece wrought of spell and smithing. Now, gather your artifacts, summon your constructs, and heed the call of the Golem. For when steel walks and magic hums, the battlefield remembers. The creators and the creations, the perfect world designed by hands of artifice, and the Golems march across the infinite planes of the multiverse. This is their story. This is the age of the Golem. The march begins. Across the multiverse, where magic bends the air and storms sing with power, a shape carves itself from raw, unfiltered energy. Not dragons, those ancient sovereigns of fire and intellect, but something wilder, something quicker, something born from the instant a spell escapes control. These are the Drakes. In Ravnica, they spark to life amid experiments and engines, weaving between towers like living currents of electricity. On Dominaria, they gather where old mana pools and forgotten relics hum, manifestations of histories that never learn to rest. In Ixalan's cliffs and Zendikar's shifting skies, they hunt like elemental predators, creatures sculpted by volcanic winds, floating stone, and the restless heartbeat of the land itself. Drakes have no lineage, no culture, no ancient councils. They do not negotiate, they do not plot. They are instinct in motion, arcane impulse given wings, the living spark between order and chaos. Where magic fractures the sky, Drakes appear. Where storms break, they rise. And when the plains grow unstable, the air fills with the beating of countless wings. For Drakes are more than beasts. They are the echo of magic trying to become alive.
Before magic reshaped the multiverse, before legends were carved into stone and whispered across plains, there were companions who chose to walk beside mortals, not above them, not beyond them, but with them, not born of prophecy, not shaped by divinity or cosmic design. They were born of trust, of instinct, of unwavering loyalty. They are the dogs. Across the quiet villages and blood-stained battlefields of Dominaria, they stand watch at broken gates and burning homes, guarding doorways long after hope has fled. They track enemies through smoke and ash, follow soldiers into wars that history will never name, and remain when banners fall and armies retreat. On Innistrad, where the night itself hunts the living, they are often the first to sense what the darkness hides. A low growl in the fog, a sudden bark in the silence, warnings thrown into the void as humanity braces for claws, fangs, and horrors unseen. When fear paralyzes, they act. Beneath the merciless sun of Amonkhet, they run beside warriors and initiates through trials meant to break body and spirit alike, enduring heat, pain, and exhaustion, not for glory, not for divine favor, but for bond, for the simple truth that no one should face the trial alone. On Tarkir, they move with the clans, surviving endless conflict and shifting allegiances. Their loyalty is not sworn to banners or khans, but forged in shared hardship, in cold nights, scarce food, and battles survived together. Steel may break, spells may fail, but they remain. They do not seek crowns, they do not hunger for conquest. They do not ask to be remembered. Their power is devotion. When angels fall, when monsters rise, when magic fails and hope falters, it is often a dog that remains, wounded, weary, yet unbroken, standing between danger and the one they serve. They fight not for dominion, but for connection. Guardians without banners, heroes without songs, companions whose faith outlives kingdoms, and whose presence turns fear into resolve. This is the legacy of dogs in magic, a quiet, enduring force. A reminder that the strongest magic in the multiverse is not cast, but chosen.
In the shadows between worlds, where mana burns hotter than anger and desire takes shape in flame, dwell the devils, born not of ambition, but of hunger for pain. Twisted reflections of demons whose cruelty knows no bounds. On Innistrad, they slip through moonlit cracks to torment the living. In Grixis, they gnaw at bones and serve darker masters. And in the decadent streets of New Capenna, they thrive among crime and corruption. They are slaves to impulse, worshippers of chaos, smiling at suffering and dancing upon despair, turning screams into symphonies and wounds into songs. Smaller than demons, yet mighty in malice. They need no wings to fly through fear. Their horns gleam in firelight. Their laughter echoes in the abyss. The cult of Rakdos embraces them, while Avacyn's faithful tremble. For devils are not conquerors with plans but wild storms. Sparks that ignite wars. Percussion in the music of conflict, spice at the feast of battle. When summoned, they scorch the sky, revel in ruin, and reduce truth to pain alone. This is their legacy, born of cruelty, shaped by impulse, serving chaos with every breath. Beware their laughter, fear their flame, for once devils whisper, they never truly leave.
In the heart of a city of spires and shadows, where guild masks hide ambition, there walk those who refuse to look away. They are the detectives, quiet watchers in the alleys, tireless minds probing buried secrets. They tread between the light and the lie, unraveling whispered threats amidst the glint of arcane street lamps. This is not the domain of warriors or wizards. Their weapons are not swords or spells, but reason, insight, and deduction. On Ravnica's endless avenues, in the corridors behind guild halls, death leaves questions, murder in the grand manor. A noble vanishes, a scandal stirs, an agency forms. The Ravnican Agency of Magicological Investigations, guardians of truth, challengers of cover-ups. Alquist Proft leads. Kayal wades between spirits and lies. Kellen hunts shadows in the night. They chase clues across rooftops and secret archives, binding evidence with insight, piercing disguise, naming the suspect. Each card they play is a revelation. Each turn the plot tightens, each shuffle a new twist. In this city, magic is the air and deceit the current beneath. But for every hidden plot, there is a detective to expose it. They do not rest in darkness, they bring dawn. They do not yield to fear, they demand accountability. The whispers hush when they arrive. The guilty tremble in their footsteps. And when the final secret falls, justice whispers its name.
They are the children of ingenuity, forged by hands that sought order in chaos, artifacts given life, purpose, and motion. From the gleaming towers of Esperit to the ether-lit workshops of Kaladesh, they populate these worlds as silent custodians, tireless workers, guardians of artifice. Yet not all that is built remains benign. On the plane once called Mirrodin, now New Phyrexia, metal veins bleed with corruption, gears become instruments of oppression, and constructs are twisted by ideology, forced into dreadful obedience. Factions rise. Some inventors craft with wonder, others forge for conquest and domination in pursuit of completion. The constructs walk among us, in citadels of learning, in battlefield wreckage, in the shine of ether, and in the blackened oil of decay. In Dominaria, the ancient artificers of the Thran built wonders, power stones that harnessed energy, constructs that served kings, and yet changed the fate of empires. In Kamigawa's laboratories, in the clockwork heart of Eldraine, in Paliano's academy once guided by Muzio's hand, gears click, joints move, and circuits spark. But all creation courts destruction. For every construct that lifts the burden of toil, there is one that stands as sentinel. For every marvel that inspires awe, there is a nightmare born of power and fear. Phyrexia whispers in the metal, demanding completion, molding the willing and the unwilling into its image. And in its depths, voices, echoes of what once was organic, now bound to gears and endless motion, struggling for identity beneath cold plating. Yet hope remains. Inventors defy corruption, artisans reclaim what was lost, and some constructs preserve memory, beauty, and freedom. For in every world where magic flows, the making of something greater, something beyond bone, lies in circuits, in metal, in the spark. This is the story of constructs, their glory, their fall, and their uprising. And now, witness the legends, the greatest, the fallen, the forged.
Quiet, unassuming, and countless. The bakers and builders, the healers, the rebels, the nameless many. They are not legends carved in marble. They are the hands that raised the marble in the first place. They are the citizens. On Ravnica, they march beneath guild banners, or cast them off entirely, forging futures of their own. In alleys and plazas, their whispers can topple empires, for when the guilds fall, the people remain. In New Capenna, they labor under demon syndicates. Some deal, some dream, others wait to break the chains of power. On Kaladesh, they craft with ether and ambition, machinists, inventors, artisans, turning spark into revolution. Even on Innistrad, where nightmares stalk the dark, villagers light lanterns and stand one heartbeat from hope. They have no wings like angels, no fire like dragons, no crowns or immortality. But they have numbers. They have courage. They have a hope that refuses to die. From markets to shattered war zones, they gather, they rise. They answer history not with prophecy, but with presence. When armies clash and legends fall, it is the citizen who rebuilds the world, brick by brick, voice by voice, life by fragile life.
They come from the places where maps end and stories begin, low, broad, and bristled with intent. Boars are the living thunder of the wild, hooves, tusks, and the silent demand of hunger. Across the multiverse, they have left their marks, rooting through the ruins of empires, charging across windswept plains, and tearing at the seams of civilization. From Dominaria's patchwork of kingdoms and wilds, to Zendikar's sprawl of stone and storm, to Tarkia's steppes and Innistrad's rough edges, Boars appear where life meets hardship. These creatures are most often painted in the colors of red and green. The heat of impulse braided with the steady strength of nature. They are not philosophers of the battlefield. They are the battlefield's most honest instrument. Force, meeting, resistance. What defines a boar in the lore is not a single trait, but a chorus. Ferocity, stubbornness, communal strength, and an odd, stubborn intelligence born of survival. Mythic tales call them by many names: swine, razorbacks, vorax, each word a different accent of the same animal's bite. They are seldom leaders of grand causes, yet they are fulcrums in the conflicts of others. In Ravnica, where guilds shape fate, the Gruul clans ride and rile with boars at their flanks, embodying the guild's disdain for structure. On wild plains, boars answer the call of the land itself, acting as both judge and remedy when mortals forget their due. They can be omens of change, heralds that the world is turning on an axis. Artists depict boars in battlefields and hearthfires, in children's tales and grim epics. Mechanically in the game, boars are often simple, efficient beaters, quick, practical, sometimes explosive in numbers. They rarely boast grand tribal engines, yet their cards pepper many sets, a testament to their persistent presence across the game's history. Beyond cards and rules, boars carry thematic weight: the raw, unprocessed wild, the refusal to be tamed, and the abrasive truth that nature often answers force with force. In certain stories, boars are companions to hunters and shamans. In others, they are antagonists to knights and travelers. They root up ancient graves and unearth relics no scholar had meant to find. They topple proclamations and trample treaties when the ground itself rebels. There are boars marked by malice, touched by dark magics and eldritch rot. And there are boars no more supernatural than mud and winter, honest and furious in equal measure. When they gather, their charge becomes choreography, a wall of tusk and hide that laughs at spears. When alone, a boar's courage is a dangerous close thing. a single creature capable of staggering a warrior with a sudden, brutal lunge. For civilizations that border the wild, boars are both menace and measure. To a farmer, a boar is a ruined harvest and a lifelong wound. To a shaman, it is a message and a living ritual. To a soldier, it is a test of mettle. Stories speak of boars who became legends, a creature that felled a great war leader, one that dug up a sealing stone, another that carried a life-saving truffle to a starving village, and so changed the course of events. They are woven into rituals, into charms made of tusk, into songs that warn children to stay near the hearth at dusk.
High above the battlefield, untouched by ground-bound chaos, they glide silently through sky and storm. They are the watchers, the heralds, the messengers of fate. They are the birds of the multiverse, from the crystal spires of Bant to the scorched sands of Amonkhet, from the sky-kissed temples of Dominaria to the spirit-laced winds of Kamigawa. Birds have soared through history, carrying with them messages, miracles, and memory. Once they served gods. Now they serve only truth and the player wise enough to hear their call. The Aven, sharp-eyed, vigilant, forged for war, descend in disciplined ranks, swords drawn, wings spread, ready to defend order with talons of justice. The blue-winged seers of knowledge glide through the currents of time, whispering secrets from tomorrows not yet written. In Ixalan's jungles, the sun-winged guards forgotten ruins, its feathers aglow with the fire of forgotten empires. In Lorwyn's dreamscape, avian spirits flicker like lanterns in the dark, guiding lost souls, weaving omens into the fabric of night. But not all who fly are friends, for in the shadowed skies of Alara and beyond, some wings bear blades and some songs a curse. In battle, they are more than evasive threats. They are tacticians of air and wind. They see what others cannot. They strike where others cannot reach. They command the battlefield from above. To underestimate a bird is to invite your own downfall. For each feather carries strategy, and each cry a warning. In the realm of Commander, birds are no longer quaint companions or distant watchers. They are commanders of legions, tacticians of tempo, and in the right hands, they are a flock of destiny. So, traveler, as you build your deck and forge your strategy, look to the skies. Will you call upon the Aven, the prophets, the protectors? Will you ride the winds of control and cunning, or summon the wrath of 1,000 wings in perfect synchrony? Because in this game of legends, victory belongs to those who soar. This is the call of the skies. This is commanding the flock.
Power takes many forms: cunning minds, arcane brilliance, divine authority. But none are as raw, as visceral, as utterly terrifying as the will of those who fight not with strategy, but with instinct. These are the Berserkers, warriors of chaos and fury, born not in noble halls or sacred temples, but on the blood-drenched fields of endless war. They are the embodiment of unchained aggression, fighters who reject fear, reject hesitation, reject mercy. Across the plains, the Berserker emerges not as a soldier, but as a force of nature. On Kaldheim, a plain shaped by Norse myth, they are legends given flesh. The Skeller clan honors no laws, but those written in blood. They drink from skulls, bind themselves to demons, and ignite their veins with rage rituals that twist their minds into a battle frenzy. Their war bands live for the sound of bones breaking, for the thrill of the fight, and for the certainty that they will die on their feet. Among the undead of Karfell, Draugr berserkers rise from icy graves, their flesh torn and rotting, their eyes glowing with the fire of ancient hate. Even death cannot silence their war cries. In Theros, under the shadow of Mogis, god of slaughter, berserkers are touched by divine madness. They live for pain, both to inflict it and to endure it, and every act of violence is a sacred offering. Their battlefields are altars, their weapons extensions of a god's will, their rage not a flaw, but a virtue. But berserkers are not bound to a single plane or god. On Dominaria, on Tarkir, on Zendikar and beyond, the spirit of the berserker erupts wherever desperation turns to wrath and reason, gives way to rage. What defines them is not just their power, but how they wield it, recklessly, violently, beautifully. They do not hold back. They do not retreat. They sacrifice everything for the moment when blood flies and the world narrows to the swing of a weapon and the heartbeat of an enemy. You cannot reason with a berserker. You cannot negotiate peace. They are not interested in balance or honor. They are avatars of ruin, storming across the battlefield with no promise of survival, only the certainty that someone will fall. In Commander, they are the wild card, the creature that turns a quiet board state into a massacre. They might go down in flames, but not before carving a path through every blocker in sight. They trade safety for certainty and caution for carnage. To command berserkers is to unleash chaos with both hands and accept whatever comes next. Because for a berserker, the only victory worth knowing is one written in blood. And the only failure is dying with your rage unspent. This is not control. This is not elegance. This is fury. Welcome to the world of berserkers.
Where forests breathe and mountains remember each storm, there resides an untamed lineage, the beasts. These creatures are neither bound by civilization nor driven by reason. They are the incarnate pulse of nature's unbroken might. These beasts carry no banners. They pledge no oaths. Instead, they obey instinct, territory, hunger, survival. They are the heartbeat of forest and mountain, of river and wasteland. In the caves and canyons, their cubs listen to stories told in claw-scarred bark and river song. Mothers charge into threat with fangs bared. Mountain giants rising to protect dens carved in stone. Their lore is etched into the earth, footprints that survive as legends. On Dominaria's wild frontiers, mighty Baloths roam Otaria's plains, their horns dripping with dew and dominance. In the steamy marshes of Soldevi, steam-driven beasts stride amid industrial haze, strange hybrids of force and fire. Even the questing beast prowls in legend, an untamed puzzle of myth and motion. Then there is Ikoria, a world where beasts are law. From towering Brokos to fleet-winged Yannick, each creature a living marvel shaped by primal mana. Civilization crouches on the edge, watching these monstrosities with awe and terror alike, for few can tame what was born of cataclysmic creation. Across plains, they endure. They do not fear winter's freeze, the scorch of desert bloom, nor the roar of eldritch storms. They adapt, survive, and dominate. They represent nature's purest form, fierce, majestic and unyielding. In their presence, civilizations shudder, but also learn. Strength need not be cunning, but it must be enduring. Their myths speak of titans reborn in flesh. Creatures of such magnitude their roars echo across realms. They are wild gods, shaped by mana and instinct. Heralds of a world unmapped by mortal rule. Their legacy is not built in stone halls, but in echoes heard beneath thunderheads and in footprints pressed into deep loam. This is the saga of the beasts, born of primal mana, shaped by wild lands, bound by nothing but instinct. When the wild stirs, it is they who answer. Neither conquerors nor conquerable, they endure, and they will outlast us all.
In the boundless wilds of the multiverse, where mana pulses through root and stone, there exists an ancient lineage, primordial and unyielding. The Bears, creatures of raw instinct and silent wisdom, tread where few dare, guardians of forgotten groves and ancestral lands. From the mist-veiled forests of Arcavios, where bear folk scholars commune with the ancient mysteries of nature, to the haunted woods of Ogrotha, where spectral bears prowl beneath moonlight. Their presence endures like the breath of the forest itself. On Eldraine, they stride beside giants and knights, their strength revered by the warriors of Garenbrig. In the snow-laden mountains of Kalsisma, their roars shake the peaks, echoing through time as the voice of the wild. They are not bound by law or crown, for they serve a deeper rhythm, the pulse of the earth, the whisper of leaves, the fury of storms. Each paw print marks the memory of 1,000 seasons. Ayula, sovereign among them, rules not from a throne, but from the heart of the wilderness, where vines bend to her will and winter bows in respect. Goreclaw, the terror of mountain passes, charges not in hatred, but in fierce protection, her fury a warning to those who defile the old ways. Kudo, silent and watchful, walks between spirit and soil, king not by conquest, but by the reverence of kin. These beings do not seek war, but when called, they rise with the wrath of a forest ablaze. Cubs are raised with stories etched in bark and blood, learning the dance of predator and protector. Their lore is not written in books, but in claw marks on stone, in the rhythm of the river, in the howl of the wind through the canopy. Across countless realms, wherever trees stretch toward the sun and the ground remembers its name, the bears endure. Not as beasts, but as sentinels, as symbols, as the breath of the untamed world. And when the plains tremble and empires fall, it is the bears who remain, still, silent, eternal.
In the forgotten corners of the multiverse, where starlight dies and prayers are swallowed by fog, the wings of ancient watchers stir. They do not march in armies or shout their names into the wind. They come in silence, with dusk, with the chill that creeps under doors and the flicker of candles that suddenly go out. They are the bats, creatures of instinct and nightmare, born not from light, but from everything it fails to reach. On the Gothic world of Innistrad, their wings haunt the skies above crumbling castles and haunted moors. There, they serve as the eyes and fangs of the vampire bloodlines, kept like hounds in stone towers or released in swarms to punish the weak. Some are mounts, others are scouts, and a rare few are vampires transformed, winged terrors whose hunger defies death. On Ravnica, they glide through cathedral shadows and crime-ridden alleys, tools of House Demir and agents of the Orzhov, carrying secrets on silent wings or curses that drain the life from the living. In Zendikar, they thrive in the chaos of a world shaped by violence and primal energy. They are not prey, they are predators, razor-winged, blood-slick, and utterly merciless. And yet, they are more than beasts. They are echoes of something older, spirits with form, shadows with hunger. Some say bats have no soul. Others whisper that they are the remnants of souls torn from flesh and drawn to the dark. Necromancers raise them, death mages cherish them, and the grave rarely holds them. They feast on carrion and mana alike, swarming over battlefields, rising again when called, a chorus of death in perfect harmony. Some drip with venom, others carry plague, and a few, the great ones, need no poison, for their claws and hunger are enough. Legends speak of ancient bats the size of siege weapons, mistaken for demons, lurking beneath temples or high atop ruined spires. They don't just hunt, they conquer. They don't speak, but they remember. They are not the end of the story, but the shadow that writes the last page. When heroes fall and armies fail, when light breaks and gods turn away, the bats still fly. Silent, patient, eternal. They are the final omen, the last breath before the scream, the darkness that falls when no one is watching. They are the bats, and the night has always belonged to them.
In the forgotten edges of the multiverse, far from marble spires and golden thrones, where the land burns hot and the sky howls cold, the barbarians endure, not as relics of a savage past, but as living storms of purpose and fury. They are born not in cities, but in fire, forged by avalanche and war cry, molded by the raw rhythm of survival. Their homes are the broken mountains of Keld, the frozen wilds of Kaldheim, the shattered earth of Dominaria, places too wild for kings, too fierce for laws. Here, in these crucibles of chaos, the barbarians thrive. They do not build empires, they raise them. They do not record history, they carve it into bone and ash. Their strength is not measured in strategy, but in the howl before the charge, the heartbeat before the axe falls. Each warrior is a legend in motion, bound not by nation, but by will, by blood, by the untamed spark that lives in all things primal. The Keldons march under burning banners, their chants echoing across generations of conquest and sacrifice. The Tuskari charge into death songs, honoring the old ways with every clash of steel. They do not fight for politics or thrones, but for the joy of the fight, for the roaring defiance of life against all odds. In their ranks walk names etched into myth. Jeska, the wounded warrior who rose to become a force of planar destruction. Kamal, the brute who sought mastery through nature and fury. And nameless hundreds whose battles shaped the fate of worlds. Mechanically, they surge with haste, raid, bloodthirst, abilities that mirror their relentless momentum and refusal to wait. Theirs is a power that cannot be caged. Even on plains like Ravnica, where the Gruul clans echo their philosophy, or Ikoria, where survival breeds instinct, the spirit of the barbarian persists, raw, unfiltered, and They are feared by scholars, dismissed by lords, but respected by gods, who know that when the end comes, it will not be a philosopher's quill or emperor's decree that endures. It will be the axe, the cry, the fury. For when cities fall and civilizations crumble, when mana fades and memory dims, the barbarians will remain, feet planted in scorched soil, eyes blazing with ancestral rage, shouting into the void that life still burns. This is not the story of order or peace. It is the saga of chaos with a heartbeat, the chronicle of survival carved in blood. This is the story of the barbarians, and it will not be forgotten.
In the beginning, the multiverse whispered through the currents of mana, and from those whispers rose the avatars, living embodiments of ideals, forces, and forgotten gods. They were not born, but conjured by the will of planes and the desperation of those who called upon them. On Dominaria, hope took the form of radiant light, and despair wore a crown of woe. In Ravnica's labyrinthine streets, law and chaos manifested as titanic beings, walking philosophies locked in eternal duel. Alara birthed the unfathomable, Progenitus, a hydra of every color, its breath rewriting the laws of magic. Ixalan offered avatars of the sun itself, charging with scaled fury beneath a banner of divine conquest. Even the deadlands of Innistrad were not silent. Their sorrow took shape in the gravetide, dragging memory from the grave. Across the stars, in towers and wilds, on altars and battlefields, avatars awaken, not as creatures, but as convictions with blood and teeth. They are not summoned. They arrive when belief boils over, when mana yearns to move. A soul cries out and the world answers, not with comfort, but with something colossal. To face an avatar is to meet a god's dream or its nightmare. They are the storm in the spell, the silence after extinction. Some are protectors, others omens. All are stories written in power and permanence. And when they fall to the battlefield, the game bends around them, reshaped in their image. In Commander, they do not just enter the fray, they become it. So when you see one stir in the player's hand, know this: the multiverse is about to speak, and it has chosen a body.
In the shattered wilds of Eteria, hunger takes form, gnashing, relentless, alive. They are the Atogs, devourers of relics and ruin, born of Dominaria's wreckage and arcane waste. Across molten plains and fractured forests they surge, gnawing magic to bone for a moment of glory. On Mirrodin, one grows monstrous, a megatog, forged to consume the world itself. But in the heart of chaos, one rules them all, Atogatog, who dines on his kin to claim the throne of gluttony. This is no tribe. This is a feeding frenzy without end.
From the forging fields of Dominaria to the bustling workshops of Kaladesh, the assembly workers have labored in silence for ages. In war-torn factories, they stoke the fires of industry, tirelessly crafting the engines of conflict. Through whirring gears and clattering metal, these humble constructs turn the wheels of history. Once mere sparks in Mishra's dreams and Urza's designs, now they span the plains, an army of hands building armies of steel. In the hushed shadows of invention, the assembly workers awaken, ready to assemble the future, one gear at a time.
From on high they descend, shrouded in golden radiance and implacable will. Riders and mounts as one, the Archons carry the laws of heaven to the chaotic realms below. In their shadow, armies falter, edicts of silence and stillness imposed with merciless authority. Where angels offer mercy, Archons deliver judgment, impartial, absolute, and terrifying in its finality. Across the plains, from Ravnica's lofty spires to Theros' war-torn fields, the Archons reign as heralds of order, their verdicts echoed in the thunder of wings. All bow before the Archons, or face a wrath as inescapable as fate.
A cat is not a conqueror. It does not seek dominion over worlds, nor does it bend the multiverse to its will. And yet, wherever life survives, cats are already there. In magic, cats are not creatures of spectacle. They do not announce their presence with thunder or prophecy. They arrive quietly, watching, waiting, measuring the world long before they decide how to move within it. Across the plains, cats endure because they understand a truth many others forget. Power is not always about control. Sometimes it is about balance. On Dominaria, cats walk the line between civilization and wilderness. They guard caravans and homesteads, hunt threats that never make it into the histories, and remain loyal not because they are bound, but because they recognize a bond worth keeping. They follow warriors into battle, not for glory or command, but because some fights must be seen through to the end. When the clash is over and the wounded remain, it is often a cat that stays awake through the night, eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the firelight. On Mirodin, a world of metal and artificial suns, cats adapted where many creatures failed. Steel jungles replaced forests, oil replaced soil, and still they hunted. Still they stalked. Still they survived. Even when Mirrodin fell and New Phyrexia rose, cats remained symbols of resistance, living proof that instinct cannot be engineered away. They learned the terrain, they learned the enemy, and they endured. On the Shard of Naya in Alara, cats are not companions, they are law. Here, the world belongs to those strong enough to claim their place within it, and cats are apex predators shaped by primal harmony. They do not rule through cruelty, but through inevitability. When a Nyan cat moves, the world adjusts around it. On Amonkhet, cats are sacred, guardians of gods, symbols of vigilance and protection. They stand at the threshold between life and death, their presence a promise that the worthy will pass, and the unworthy will not. Here, cats are not merely animals, they are judgment given form. Silent sentinels beneath an unforgiving sun, watching as mortals test their limits, deciding who is prepared to move forward and who will be left behind. On Kaladesh, cats reflect another side of their nature. Grace, independence, elegance without fragility. They move through bustling cities and aether-powered marvels as comfortably as they do through wild terrain. They are companions, yes, but never possessions. A Kaladeshi cat chooses where it belongs, and once it does, its loyalty is absolute. On Ikoria, cats become something else entirely. Here, survival is constant adaptation. The land itself reshapes those who live upon it, and cats rise to meet that challenge. They evolve, they grow, they hunt monsters far larger than themselves, not through brute force, but through precision, patience, and instinct sharpened to a blade. Across all these worlds, cats share a common truth. They do not rush. They do not waste energy. They observe. They learn. And when they strike, it is because the moment is right. Cats in magic are hunters, but they are also protectors. They fight fiercely for those they recognize as their own. Not out of obligation, but out of connection. They do not need crowns. They do not need songs. Their authority is understood the instant they enter a space. When angels fall, when gods fail, when civilizations collapse under their own ambition, cats remain, watching ruins reclaim themselves, walking paths no longer marked on maps, carrying forward a quiet continuity that predates empires and outlasts them all. Because cats are not bound to the rise and fall of history. They exist alongside it. In Magic, the Gathering, cats remind us that not all strength demands domination, not all heroes seek recognition, and not all guardians announce themselves with light and flame. Some simply sit in silence, eyes half closed, listening to the world breathe, ready to act when the balance is threatened. This is the legacy of cats in the multiverse. Hunters without cruelty, guardians without chains, companions who walk beside legends, never behind them. And long after the last spell fades, after the final battlefield grows quiet, after the stories are told and forgotten, the cats will still be there, watching, waiting, choosing when to move.
In a world shattered by titanic hunger and ancient fury, where the land itself buckles and screams beneath unfathomable power, the plain of Zendikar stood on the brink of oblivion. The Eldrazi had come, primordial forces of unmaking, birthed beyond the stars, feeding on mana, on matter, on reality itself. They descended in silence, bringing with them nothing but devastation. Cities crumbled, continents cracked, and hope all but vanished. But from the ashes of fear and the ruins of civilization, something unexpected took root. Not a kingdom, not a standing army, but a movement, a coalition, a heartbeat of resistance. They were not of one race, nor of one creed. They were core climbers scaling treacherous cliffs to scout for danger, merfolk seers weaving spells from the rivers of memory, elven blades striking from the brush, human warriors shielding their kin, even vampires who laid aside their hunger to join the cause. The world did not give them a name, they gave it to themselves. They were the allies, and they stood for everything the Eldrazi sought to erase: connection, trust, unity. Each one stronger, not alone, but because of those who stood beside them. For every ally that joined the cause, the others rose in power. Tactics refined, magic magnified, courage renewed. They became a living chain of synergy and resolve. In their ranks walked legends, Tazri, the veteran soldier whose tactics turned defeat into deliverance, Munda, the exile who found redemption in leading others, and scores of others whose names may never be known, but whose blades and wills were no less vital. They did not fight for dominion or conquest, nor for gods who had long turned their gaze away. They fought for each other, for survival, for the hope that their world could still endure. They formed no empire, bore no single banner, but each battlefield they crossed became a monument to defiance. As the Titans loomed and the ground itself trembled, the allies stood. Not the fastest, not the most powerful, but unstoppable in their togetherness. They are a symbol, not just of Zendikar's struggle, but of all who have ever looked into the eyes of annihilation and chosen to stand tall. Bound not by blood, but by purpose, not by fate, but by will. When history forgets the empires and the names of tyrants fade, the tale of the allies will still be told, in campfire whispers, in songs of resistance, in the hearts of those who believe that even when the world ends, unity remains. This is not the story of a chosen one. It is the story of many, fighting as one. This is the story of the allies and the war they refuse to lose.
Not forged by gods, not shaped by evolution, but accidentally exhaled by progress. Wrought from the waste of magical industry, these shadowed beings emerged from the vapors of Kaladesh's most brilliant minds, born not of womb or will, but as beautiful mistakes. With no past to inherit and no future to claim, the Aetherborn live like every moment is their last, because it might be. Their lives are measured in days, not decades. Their hearts beat with borrowed time. Their souls shimmer with dying starlight. And so, they do not waste a second. Some become duelists, others thieves in midnight cloaks, and a few rise to become legends. Yahenni, the celebrant of blood, assassin, icon, martyr, with flair, with style, with a heart both generous and cruel. Yahenni walks the razor's edge between fame and oblivion. Their every gesture is a performance, their every kill a statement. But not all Aetherborn are so benevolent. Some hunger for more than sensation. They feed on life itself, siphoning vitality in the quiet between seconds. Not out of evil, but out of desperation. Because when death chases your shadow with every breath, you dance, you devour. You exist in the fiercest way you can. They have no gods, no ancestors, only the now, the fire, the thrill. And yet, in this chaos, they ask a question deeper than any philosopher. If I am but a moment, can I make that moment eternal? This is the story of the fleeting, the beautiful, the deadly. This is the legacy of those who were never meant to exist. This is the age of the Aetherborn.